We're going to draw a bookcase in Sketchup right now. We're going to concentrate on several different techniques that I think are really great for Sketchup. One of them is making groups, using groups, and also using components to make drawing easier and quicker. So let's get started. Let me first show you what we're going to end up with, hopefully, when we're finished. We're going to see a bookcase that's similar to this one. We're going to have 4 pages, hopefully, when we're done. Maybe they'll be numbered correctly, like these aren't. They go 1, 2, 4, 3, but we could change that. We can move the sequence of the pages around, but I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So the next scene or page in the original SketchUp program, and these were called pages, not scenes. The second one is just a closer view of the bookcase from an angle, looking mostly at the top at the crown molding. And scene 4 is looking down at the bottom of the baseboard around the bookcase, and scene 3 is looking at the back of the bookcase. So when we complete this tutorial, we should have something very similar to this bookcase. So let's get started. We'll open a new document by clicking on the new document. I always end up with this little square here, the way I have SketchUp set up, but some of you may open it up and see a little man. The first thing you have to do is use the select tool to select that figure, whether it's the man or the square, and then choose select it and then choose erase from the drop down menu, or just push the delete key. And now what we want to do is set this up so we're drawing in the right perspective. This is the first thing you always have to do when you draw anything in SketchUp, is pick the correct perspective to draw in from the start. And you can avoid having to rotate the drawing in odd ways later on. These are the perspective choices right up here. If you're drawing in plan view looking straight down on the object, then you'll be using this icon right here, which is actually a little house, I think, with a chimney in the top. At least that's what I think it is. This is front view, or elevation, looking straight at the drawing. So we're going to be using plan view. We'll click on that key there, and now we're looking straight down at the drawing, and these are the axis lines that we'll use occasionally to help us draw. We're going to start by drawing a rectangle, a simple rectangle. I don't care what size it is, I'm just going to draw it. And notice that the length comes first in the dimension box down here, and the width comes second. So let's make this box 32 inches, comma, which I'm using the comma as like an X, so it's 32 by, we'll make it 10 inches deep. And you notice it resizes immediately as soon as you press the enter key. Also notice that when I type inches, I don't have to type the inch mark. I can just write 32 and 10. If I wanted to write in feet, if I wanted to draw in feet, I'd have to use the foot mark, which is the that single colon mark, or the apostrophe. In order to draw in inches like this, go to Window, look at Model Info, and change your settings here. You can use architectural settings so you can draw in feet and inches, or you can use fractional for cabinetry and most finish work. That's the choice you'll probably want to make. And I usually have my precision set to a 1/16 of an inch so that you can use these drawings for working plans when you go out to your shop to build something. So that's the way I set up my the basics for the drawing program. So now we have this rectangle here, and let's zoom in on this. If you're using SketchUp for the first time, if you don't have a mouse with a scroll wheel, just quit right now. You can't use this program without a mouse with a scroll wheel. And also the scroll wheel, you have to be able to push down on the scroll wheel and then move the mouse. So make sure that the mouse you use has a scroll wheel and one that actually serves as a function button as well when you push down on it. So we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to draw in the parts of this bookcase. We'll use the rectangle tool again, and on this end I like to make my bookcases with finished sides, and you'll see some of you have already seen some of the bookcase designs I do, and this will be a typical one. We'll draw the side first, and you notice it's 10 inches by 1 3/16 inches. I don't care what the dimensions are. We want it to be 10 inches. And we want it to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'll type those numbers in down here in the dimension box, then press the enter key, and that'll become 10 by 3/4 of an inch. Doesn't look like it did, does it? Well, let's go back and make sure it does. We'll draw that little rectangle in here, and then we'll write 10, comma, 3/4 and press the enter key. There we go. There it is. So we've got a little rectangle right here that represents one of the finished sides. I'm going to go over here to the select tool and pick the select tool, and then I'm going to double click on that new side 2 times, once, twice. Oops, I did 3 times. Let's try again. Once, twice, 2 clicks, and all I selected was that new rectangle itself. I'm going to hold my cursor on that rectangle and I'll click on the right mouse button and select Make Component. From this menu, I'm going to type in side. Then I'm going to make sure that I check this box to replace selection with the component, and then click Create. That's now a component since that dark blue line is around it. So that's a finished side. Let's copy that finished side. We'll choose the Move tool and take the Move tool, and you notice that little green dot that appeared in that corner right there? I could make it appear pink in that corner, or pink up in this corner, or green in that corner. We want it in that corner. We want to make sure it's green, and as soon as you get that green dot or pink dot, depending upon the corner you wish to move the object from, as soon as you get that dot, hold down the Control key and then click your left mouse button, and you can let go of the Control key and your left mouse button, and you can drag a copy across. Now look, you notice how the little dotted line behind it that tails off that object turns black, and there it turned red. When it's red, it means I'm following this axis. See the red axis line right there? When I'm moving directly in that direction, it'll turn red. So it's parallel to that axis. If I want to make sure it stays on that axis while I'm moving it, I can hold down the Shift key and watch. The red line darkens. So with that line darkened, I cannot move that object off the axis. It'll stay on that axis until I get to the corner I want it at. I'll let go of the Shift key and click once with my mouse button. And now we have the other finished side at this end. So we have 2 finished sides. Now let's do the interior sides. I'll click on that rectangle tool again. And actually, before we can do the interior sides, we have to do the back. So we'll draw a back on this bookcase. We'll draw it across here, and we can see it's 30.5 inches. And according to the dimension box, it's 1 1/8, but we're actually going to make it 30.5 by 1/4. There we go. See the dimension showing up in the dimension box, and I pressed enter, and now it's sized itself to 30.5 by 1/4 of an inch. Now let's double click on that using the select tool. We'll double click on that right away. There we go. Let's make sure we got it all. There we go. It's all turned blue, and you can see, oh, there's one line left that didn't. So I'm going to hold down the Control key and click on that line too, and now we've got it all, I hope. We might not have the 2 ends, but that should be enough. Now I'm going to right click on that while it's selected. I'm going to right click on my mouse, and I'm going to choose Make Group. Now there's a reason I make the back into a group and I make the sides into components. Anytime I'm drawing something that's going to have repetitive pieces, multiple pieces, I make them components, as I did the 2 sides. Anytime I'm drawing something that's a single piece, like the back, I make that a group. So, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now let's draw in the 2 interior sides. They're going to be shorter. They're only going to come up to the back. They're not going to be full width. So they're 9 3/4 by 3/4. And you can see the dimensions showed up in the lower dimension box, but that one, look, the one that says 7/8, and it says 1 inch now, it says 1 1/8. See, it has that little squiggle mark in front of it? That means it's approximately that size. We do not draw in approximates in SketchUp. That's why, as carpenters, you always have to create your rectangle and then tell it exactly what size you want it to be. 9 3/4 by 3/4. And now we've got the rectangle precisely the size we want it. That's really important when you go to dimension things later. So now let's double click on that one and make it a component, right? Because there's going to be multiple pieces of that. So we'll call that the interior side. And you don't really have to label these things like that. You could just call them component 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, we have to check this box and then click on Create. Now we have our interior side. And what do we want to do? Right, we want to move it and copy it simultaneously. So we use the move tool, find the green dot, get the green dot on there, then hold down the control key, and then while you're holding it down, click once with the left mouse button and slide your copy over. Now you can let go of the mouse button and the control key, and now hold down the shift key to make sure you stay on axis. And then let go of everything. Click on your mouse key once and your copy will stay right where you want it. Now we have our two sides in place. Now let's draw the stiles on the ends. Here's the first one. We'll make them about 2 inches by 3/4, 2, 3/4, and press enter, and there's our first style. We'll choose the select tool and make that into a component, and we can call it style and create, and then take the move tool, take a copy by holding down the control key, clicking once, and then holding down the shift key to move a copy over to the opposite corner. Now we have most of the parts of this bookcase built, and really that's what you do with SketchUp. Joe Wood explained to me when I first started using it that this is just like carpentry. You make your pieces and you assemble your projects one piece at a time, just as if you were cutting the pieces out on a table saw. So this is really a carpenter's best friend, this drawing program. Now we've got our stiles, our sides, we've got everything we need, and it's time to start looking at this in 3 dimensions. Let's get rid of this center section here, and actually we can get rid of this line right here, and it'll erase everything in the middle, so that all we have is the footprint of the bookcase. Now I'm going to hold down my scroll wheel, pushing down on my scroll wheel and moving my mouse. I'm going to rotate this into a different perspective, so I'm looking at it, and actually there's a little button up here you can also push, this little house that shows the perspective, a new perspective view from an angle, and you can see now we're seeing it in getting ready to see it in 3 dimensions. It's still a 2-dimensional shape, but in just a moment we're going to make it 3-dimensional. Let's start with the interior sides. We'll use the push-pull tool to turn this into a 3-dimensional drawing. We've got the push-pull tool right here that I clicked on. I'm going to hold the tool over this drawing. Let me select this first. So we've selected that component, and I'll choose Edit Component from the drop-down list, and I do that by clicking on the cursor and then choosing that component and right-clicking on it once you've selected it, and then choosing Edit Component. Now that we're in Edit Component, I can take the Push-Pull tool, hold it over it, and you notice how it turns to dots once you pass the Push-Pull tool over it. Once it turns to dots, you can pull it up out of the drawing. And if you look over in the far right, you'll see the other interior side is coming up at the same time. That's because they're components and they're linked to each other. If you change one, you change them both. We want to bring that up, and let's make it 60 inches tall. So we'll bring it up, and it came up to 54. Let's just type in 60 and enter, and it'll automatically become 60 inches tall. Now I'm using the scroll wheel to zoom in and out and change the view here, the perspective a little bit, so we can get a better look at this. Notice the black dots around this piece of the drawing. That's because it's a component and we're in edit view, so you're able to work on that component. If I move outside of that box, I can right click anywhere and choose close component, and we're no longer in edit view, so we can't work on that component. Now let's look at the next side, this side here. I'll choose the select tool. All I had to do was double click on it, and it immediately went into edit component. So I didn't have to use, let me do that again. I don't have to select that component and then right click it. Instead, I can double click it, and instantly I'm able to edit it. And then with the push-pull tool, the same thing. If I double click it, it remembers the last push-pull that you made, and it'll repeat it exactly, so the dimensions are precisely the same. Let's close that component, and let's open up the style. We'll go to the select tool and double click on that, and then choose the push-pull tool and double click on that, and both styles now have come up. Notice the style over here is up too, and so are both sides, and all we have left to bring up is the back. Let's go around to the back, and notice how the back is all ready to fit right inside this 1/4 inch offset because the interior side is a 1/4 of an inch shorter. So now let's double click on that back, and it's a group, but it'll open the same way as a component. We'll edit that. Oh look, it's not we never made that a group. Let's get in there closer and see what's going on. Oh, there we are. Now we've got a hold of that group. Now let's take our push-pull tool and double click on that, and there we have our back. So we'll close that group, and we'll turn this around. I'm holding the scroll wheel down and moving my mouse to rotate the drawing around. And now we have the basics of the bookcase. I always like to put the lock rails in next. So we'll start with the bottom lock rail. I'm going to move in here so I have a decent view of the bottom, seeing all 4 corners of the stiles. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool, and I'm going to reach in here at the very corner of that stile and hold it and click on the mouse once. Click on the left mouse button once, and just kind of slide it across to give the rectangle an idea of where I want it to go. There, it got the idea very quickly. So now I'll take the push-pull tool, put it over that rectangle until it turns to dots, and bring it up. Let's make it 8 inches tall. So 8 inches. And notice it says 8 inches exactly. We can trust that. We don't have to type anything in. If it doesn't have one of those little squiggle marks in front of it that means approximately, it's safe. We can use that dimension. So now we have the top style. Now we have the bottom style. Oops, before we go any further, we want to make that into a group. So we'll choose the select tool and triple click on that. Now you have to triple click on 3-dimensional objects in order to select all of them, the whole object. On 2-dimensional objects you only have to double click. So we'll triple click 1, 2, 3, and we'll have the whole object. And you notice those selection lines are all the way around, and they even go to the inside. So once you have it selected like that, put your cursor over the top of it and choose Make Group. So now that's a group, and we have to have those as groups or they'll get stuck to the rest of the drawing. And then when you try to move something, it all sticks to each other and it makes a big mess. So always draw in groups and use components too for any piece of your drawing that's going to be used as a repetitive part. Now we want to put in the top lock rail. Well, the top lock rail size is going to be dependent on the crown molding that we want to use around the top of this bookcase. So we need to get some crown molding. How are we going to do that? I'm going to open up another drawing. I'm going to open up a drawing that I have. Actually, I already have it open. Let me just switch to that drawing. Here it is. This is a collection of moldings that I borrowed that's available on my website. It's Windsor One's Moldings. And I'm going to take their crown molding from the Greek Revival style, this piece right here. I left-clicked it until it's selected, and then I hold down the Control key and hit the C key for copy. So it's Control C to copy something. Now I'm going to go back to the previous drawing. Here's that bookcase of ours. And I'm going to press Control V. So I'll press Control V, and it'll automatically turn my tool into the Move tool. Automatically. Because it has the copy that I borrowed from the other drawing. It instantly goes into the Move tool function. And there's my piece of crown. Let's zoom in on it, and you can see it. Boom, there's the crown molding. I'm going to stick it right to the side of the bookcase, basically where it's going to go. But we need to move it up so it's flush with the top of the bookcase up here. So I'll click on this lower corner again, and now I'll slide it up. And I'm going to hold down the Shift key to make sure. Notice how that blue line underneath it got dark? I held that down just to make sure it stays right where I want it. And that's about flush with the top of the case. So now we've got our crown molding there, and let's do a little math. Let's measure how far down that crown comes. We'll use the scale tool here, the little tape measure, and we'll put the dot right at the top and slide it down until the pink dot shows up at the bottom. And look at the little window there, it says 2 5/8. Let's make a click right there, and that'll set a point there. Now let's come down again. I want to come down 2 inches more. So let's come down until we're there's 2 inches right there. So we'll make another click. So we'll get a little construction dot right there. Now how far is that? Well, we can use the dimension tool. This is the scale tool. And this is the dimension tool to actually read a dimension from those buttons that we clicked, those dots that we created. And that dimension is 4 5/8. So let's bring down the top rail 4 5/8. So I'll take the rectangle tool, I line it up where I want to start, and then I show it the other corner that I want it to tie to, and then I drag it across. And that's how Sketchup works. You have to sometimes show it the things you want it to do. Now let's get underneath that and pull that down 4 5/8. So we'll use the push-pull tool and pull that down 4 5/8. You see in the dimension box, down in the distance box, we're at 4 5/8. Right on. That's exactly where we want it. And before we do anything, we want to make this into a group. So we triple click it. Let's do that again just to make sure we got it all. 1, 2, 3. And then make that a group. Now we're almost ready to run the crown. I like to run the crown before I do the top, before I put a top on it, because that way it tells you that way you know how big to make the top. It's a lot easier. So and I really do the same thing when I'm building a bookcase. But instead of just running the crown straight around this thing, I like to dress up the fronts of my bookcases. So let's do a little Gothic thing here, kind of a little Victorian thing. We'll build a little box right here, and let's bring it down so it comes down right to the bottom of that lock rail, just like so. So we built a little rectangle there, and this is like an end block, like a little block we're gonna make. So we made a rectangle. Now I take the pencil tool and I'm gonna clip these corners. So I'll take the tool and I'll start like right there. I want to leave about a third of the middle of it left. So I'll clip the corner like that. And then I'll take it over here, and if I take that tool across, it'll give me a dotted line so it's level with that clip. And then I'll bring it down here and clip that corner. And you know what? I'd like to clip them a little higher than that, so it's a little bit more dramatic. Let's go from there up to there. And now let's come across and down. That's going to look a lot sharper. So let's get rid of that first one that we made. So I'll erase that, and I'll erase this one over here, and I'll erase the two bottom lines. Let's just be careful what you select. There we go. There's our little end block. And let's make that 3/4 of an inch thick. So we'll take our push-pull tool. We'll bring that out 3/4. 7/8. Let's tell it exactly what we want. 3/4. And press enter. And now we have exactly the end block we want. And since that's a multiple piece, we'll choose the select tool, triple click it, and make it a component, just in case you might want to change it later. And here I'll just say create, so it'll be component number 1. Now let's take that component, and you notice I'm doing the same thing. Use the move tool, hold it from the corner you want to move it from, that you're going to want to stick it with, where you're going the corner you're going to want to use to stick it. And this is the corner I want to use to stick it. So I'll hold down the control key, click the left mouse button, and pull out my copy. I'll hold down the shift key to lock in the axis so it won't go all over the place. It'll only slide in that axis, and I'll stick it with that corner right to the edge of that other style. And that's what I meant by pick the corner you want to use to stick it. So think ahead. So there's our pieces, our 2 end blocks. Now let's do something fun. This is where you run the molding. We're going to choose the cursor, the select tool here, and get rid of this measurement mark. We don't need that anymore. I'll press the delete key and it'll disappear. And we don't need this construction line here either. I'll press the delete key and that'll go away. And there's some construction marks down here too, probably. Yeah, there's one. Let's get rid of that. And that's gone. So we don't need any of that. Just clean up the drawing a little bit. Now I'm going to scroll back around and get myself ready to run the molding. First I'm going to choose that piece of crown, and I'm going to edit the group. Then I'm going to pick the pencil tool. I have to create a path for this crown molding. I'm going to create a path from the very bottom of the molding, starting from that point right there. The path is really a pencil line. It's a hint for where you want the crown to go. You have to tell it. You have to give the follow me tool a specific path to follow. You notice that that pencil line turned green. That means that it's square to the bookcase. It's level. It's on the right axis. I click there once. I come across and it turns red because I'm following the red axis. till I get to the other corner. Now I'm going to rotate the drawing around. It'll go green again. And stay with those axis lines. If you don't, you're going to get off axis and everything will be all messed up. I'm going to keep going. We'll go green there, and then red to the other corner, and then we'll probably go green all the way to the back. There's our pencil line, and you see that it wants to keep drawing, so you have to press the escape key right here to make it stop drawing. And you notice how that group has gotten really big. The group has, and these are the same kind of dotted lines you see around a component that you're in edit mode with. Well, we're in edit mode with this group, and it's the crown molding that's the group. In order to do this, you have to edit the group that the crown is in, and then draw the path in the group. If you don't draw the path in the group, you won't be able to pull the molding around. So in other words, the pencil line path that I drew has to be drawn while you're in edit mode in that specific group of the crown molding, or whatever molding you're using. Now I'll use the Follow Me tool. This is one of my favorite tools in Sketchup. We take the Follow Me tool and hold it over that molding until it's selected. You can see the little dots show up. I'm going to back off so I can see this corner here. Now, as soon as you have it selected, show the Follow Me tool where you want it to go. You see the red dot that showed up right there? I want it to go around here, so just take that red dot. Now, this is just like the other tools in SketchUp. It remembers what you've done, and it's trying to learn what you want. So once you turn a corner like that, it's going to remember that you did. I'm holding down the left mouse button. You have to hold down the left mouse button the entire time. Do not let it go. If you happen to let it go like that, then push the go back button and start over again. Hold the mouse button down and do not let it go. I'm holding it down and I'm pushing down the scroll wheel and rotating the drawing with that mouse button still held down just to get myself around these corners. I'm going to scroll out. I'm going to scroll over to here. I'm going to scroll back in. You notice how the crown molding moves back and forward, but I never lose it because it remembers where I've already gone. I'm going to teach it to go around that corner right there, and then I'm going to scroll around to the back corner and have it follow that path line all the way to the back of the bookcase. Then I'll go outside of that editable group, that editing group, that group box, and I'll right click anywhere and choose Close Group. Now, you see all these little lines that show up? This happens all the time with a curved profile. And the way you fix that is you right click on it and it'll show you the group. Now, you're not opening the group. You're not going to edit the group. You just want to select the group. And once you have it selected, go to Soften Smooth Edges, click on that, and it'll clean it up beautifully. This funny window also pops up. It popped up way off to the left side of my screen. This funny little window will pop up too, and when you see that, just close it. As soon as you're done, close it. So you see all the crown molding now looks really nice. It's finished. Let's put a top on top of this thing now. We'll go back to the rectangle tool, and this fact that this group is selected is bothering me. I can't see the lines clearly, so I'm going to choose Edit and select None, and now I can see the drawing better. I've got the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw a rectangle on top of that crown. Let me teach it which corners I want it to follow. It got a little confused, but there we are. There we are. So now we've got a flat top on top of that crown molding. Let's pull that crown into 3 dimensions, that top into 3 dimensions, and we'll make it 1 inch. And look, it's 1 inch distance right in the distance box. That's exactly what we wanted. And let's have it overhang that crown 1 inch on every side. So there's 1 inch. Oops, it went 1 inch and a 1/16. We want it to be 1. There we go. And the front, double click, it's 1 inch. Once we tell it to go 1 inch, it'll do it everywhere. 1 inch all the way around. So we have a nice 1 inch reveal all the way around the bookcase. Isn't that cool? Now, let's make that a group. Before we go any further, we'll triple click on that, 1, 2, 3, and make that a group. So it's safe. We can always take that top now if we wanted to. We could take that top right off of there and look inside of that cabinet, right inside the top of the cabinet if we needed to. If you don't make it a group, you won't be able to do that. So I'm going to set it there for a second, push the go back button, it'll go right back to where it was. Now let's make the shelves for the inside. I'm going to zoom in here and get myself positioned so that I can see the inside of this cabinet. The bottom in order to draw this shelf. I'm going to choose the rectangle tool and draw a rectangle across the bottom of the case. And then I'm going to use the push-pull tool to pull that rectangle up 3/4 of an inch. I'll type in 3/4 and press enter. And then I'll triple click on that and make that into a component. And we'll call that shelves. Make sure that box is checked and click create. Now let's pull that component up. There it is. There's our shelves. You can see it right there. Let's pull that component up so that we can grab a hold of the whole thing. We'll just set it right here next to the style. And I'm going to go back here and grab this back corner and get it right in the corner again where I want it. So now the shelf that we built is tight to the rear corners and the front corners. It's positioned perfectly. And now I want to grab it from this point right here and slide it straight down until it sticks right to that corner. So now that shelf is perfectly flush with the bottom rail. Now that we have that shelf created, let's grab it. We'll grab it from right here at this easy to pick point. Hold down the control key, click on the left mouse button, and pull up a copy of that shelf. And you can let go of the control key, let go of the mouse button, and start sliding that up. You notice we have the blue dotted line, so we're going to darken that by holding down the shift key to keep it on axis. And I'm going to scroll back and scroll up with that shelf until it's flush with the top. Once it's flush with the top, and I can scroll in to make sure, let's bring it up a little higher. That's good enough. I mean, we can't see it, but that's okay. I'm going to press, now before I move my mouse button, I'm going to press the backslash key and the number 4. I just entered the, look at the dimension box down at the bottom, and I'm pressing enter. Boom. Now we have 3 more shelves in that opening that are perfectly spaced. If you don't like the 3 shelves, press the backslash key and press the number 5 and press enter. And now you have 5 shelves. If you only want to have 3 shelves, press the backslash key and the number 3 and press enter, and you only have 3 shelves. It's always counting the shelf that you moved initially. So it's counting the top shelf that we put in. I'd like to see 5, so let's press the backslash key and the number 5 and enter, and we'll have 5 shelves. That's one of the other beauties of using groups and components. You can make duplicate pieces and get perfect centerings instantly, save you incredible amounts of time. So now we have one more thing we want to do to this bookcase. Let's put some baseboard molding around it. And I have that file that I'll open up here with the Windsor 1 moldings, and we'll pick this base right here. So we've selected it. I press the Control-C key to copy it. I go back to my original drawing. You can use Alt-Tab or whatever you wish to get back to your, or the menu bar at the bottom of your computer screen. And now I'm going to press Control-V to copy it. And I immediately get the Move tool with the baseboard. There's a little piece of baseboard. Let's scroll in and stick that piece of base to the bottom edge of that bookcase. Perfect. It's pretty much right where we want it. Now, what do we have to do to make a molding? To run a molding? We have to edit the group and create a path. So we're going to use the Select tool. Click on that with the right mouse button. Choose Edit Group, and we'll get that box with the dotted lines around it. We're in the edit group mode. We'll choose the pencil tool again, and we'll create a path all the way around the bottom of this bookcase using the pencil tool to create the path. And then it wants to keep drawing, so we press the escape key, and then we go back to that piece of base and use the Follow Me tool to bring the molding. Oh, look, it stopped. It cannot find the path. So let's help it. Let's go back and get ourselves ready so that we can show it more clearly where we want it to go. Okay. Now follow me around here. See the little red dot that showed up? Let's show that dot where we want it to go. Around this corner here, please. There we go. It figured it out. Just takes the program a minute to figure out what you want. Get yourself situated before you turn the corner, and then show it where to go. There we go. Go outside of the edit box, right click and close group, and then right click on the group and choose soften smooth edges. And that little box will show up again, that little window, and just close that. You can change the degree to which it smooths the edges. And there's the bookcase. Now there's a few things we need to do to finish up. The access lines are still visible. You can see them here and here, the blue, the red, and the green access lines. Let's get rid of those. So we'll go to View, and we'll click on Access. Right now it's checked, so we'll get rid of them so we don't see those anymore. Now let's go to the very front view. There's the front view looking straight at the object, and let's create a new scene. In Google Sketchup, these are called scenes, and we want to add a scene. There's scene 1. In the old version of SketchUp, these are called pages, but it's basically the same thing. So we've got scene 1. Now let's create scene 2. We'll right-click on scene on the tab, right-click on the tab, and choose Add. Now it has scene 2. So let's get the view that we want. So I'm going to use the rotate. I'm going to rotate the drawing using the scroll wheel. Let's take a view that's just straight sideways, full size, full height, but a side view. And once you get the view you want, put your cursor on the tab, right-click, and choose Update. And then do it again, and this time choose Add, a new one. So now we're into scene 3. We'll look closer at that crown molding. These are the kind of views your clients may want. Put your cursor on that tab and clicking on the right mouse button, choose Update, and then choose Add another scene. And now let's look at the baseboard, and we'll choose Update, and then Add another scene. We'll go around to the back of the bookcase and show the whole back, and we'll say Update. So now we have 5 pages. 1 is the front, 2 is a side view, 3 is a side view of the crown detail, 4 is a side view of the base detail, and 5 is a full view of the back. Now if you want to animate this, it's very simple. Just click on View, Animation, Play. And what it'll do is it'll automatically play these pages. And this is a good technique if you want to bring your laptop to a job site or to a client's home just to show them a piece of furniture, or a bookcase, or a mantelpiece, or something that you're building for them. And it plays over and over again automatically until you click Stop. It'll play straight through again. You click Stop and it's over. And of course, long before you've gotten to this point, make sure you save your drawing. Don't make the mistake I've made too many times and lose something when you're this far along. I hope that helped. And in one of the future tutorials, we'll get into layers. And that's a much more advanced technique, but that's the technique we use to move objects inside of a drawing, like pivoting a door, or changing text from one page to the next if you want to have text appear on one page and not have it appear on another. So it's a really important technique, but it's very advanced. If you can get past these really important fundamentals, which are using groups and using components, you'll really be a long ways along with this program. And you should be, because it's one of the most important tools, I think, for carpenters, next to a really good table saw.